Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Now, before we started actually videotaping here, we were discussing about the different aspects of the goddess in this tradition, and I did a little research on that.
Good.
It was very
Excellent.
enlightening for me.
Cool.
Could you explain how these different aspects represent archetypes within ourselves?
Wisdom goddesses these are goddesses. They developed in a collective form around the 13th, 14th century, and they kind of arose as a response to the Orthodox tradition and a lot of its limitations or to limiting beliefs, these conditions around our natural expression.
The Brahmanic
order, right.
Yeah.
And around purity, what is considered pure, what is impure, and often what is demonized or considered polluting or impure is these female states: menstruation, birth, sex, that's not only female, of course, and death, too. Yeah. And so it's these states of consciousness, really, in any of these, birth, menstruation, sex, where our consciousness shifts, we're on a threshold, right? And these goddesses are understood to be very fierce, and also embody the sensuality and the beauty and the grace and the power. So they're everything goddesses. They're not just restricted to being one emanation of, for
not
example,
just pretty and sweet.
Sweet, yeah, exactly, like Barbies or something, And so they're a force, but they really express the full nature of femaleness and our potential. And it's not just for women, it's for men too, because they are these forces, excuse me, of consciousness within. And so they are, for example, some will say that it's this collective form are all aspects of the mother call, or different expressions of call.
The
so she's the one and the many. And all of them, though, they're very paradoxical. They're very unconventional. And what's interesting in our approach to them is that mantra, the word for mantra in the case of the Tantric wisdom goddesses is Vidya. So they're called Mahavidyas, great wisdom goddesses. Vidya means knowledge.
Yeah.
It means wisdom. And so their mantras are Vidyas. They're so potent because they contain the wisdom, the knowledge of the universe. And so they really invite us to go beyond what society has said is possible for us, or this conditioning, or how we should behave in relationship, or how we should, even think about death or birth or any of these states.
They get kind of wild, these goddesses.
They're wild. They're definitely wild. And then they also have their more quiet states too. Yeah. And they represent, one of them is very feared, and these goddesses, even in certain parts of India, are feared still today, to this day. And in fact, there aren't even many temples to them because a lot of the artists are afraid to even misrepresent them. They don't want to invoke their wrath. But I really think what this is saying is it's an understanding that you cannot completely deny the sacred female. But she may have been marginalized, she may have been pushed to the periphery, and rightfully so, there may be this anger and this power that wants to be expressed. But she's not only that. She wants to come back in and be honored for the fullness that she is this destructive force that's within each of us, and she's that creative force, and she's that sexual force that is that erotic creative power. And I don't mean that only in that act of between two humans. I mean, it's really the pulse of all existence,
the
desire,
Shakti itself.
the Shakti itself that propels us to create, to experience, in deeper ways if we are open. So they're amazing, awesome goddesses, really just incredible. There's Tara, who takes us, she's the goddess of liminal realms. Tara means star, and in her Hindu form, she has this fiercer emanation. And so we are familiar with the Buddhist Tara, who's a goddess of compassion.
Right.
This Tara is compassionate too. And she hangs out in cremation grounds. You know, she does these practices there, or her practitioners or devotees are invited to do practices in these places where, you know, culturally there's a lot of fear.
Right.
And these are places that, you know, we see that there's bodies that have, you know, the spirit has left. And so there's just a whole different understanding around what is sacred. And
yeah. In our culture here in the Western world, the goddess has been pretty confined, and that's really created an imbalance in our culture.
Exactly.
So as a musical alchemist, I'm always looking for harmony, and we see that this need is rising very strongly now in our culture, and has for the last 3 or 4 generations, to balance the feminine and the masculine qualities within ourselves. There's more to the goddess than the Virgin Mary.
Exactly. that she's not just the Virgin or the whore.
Or the whore.
That's
exactly.
what's so amazing about goddesses like the Mahavidyas. That you see, they're everything. They're that full spectrum.
Yeah, and we'll give you some links to learn more about these goddesses.
Yes, good idea.
Yes. Why the Psalms of Sex, you ask? Well, unless you're one of the aliens that drops by occasionally for a visit, all of you listening to me and watching this video got here by sex.